This program was first broadcast on Canterbury's access media station, Plains FM, and was made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.
Today, Kate and I are going to be talking about why we as parents are so fixated on our kids needing to be smart. It kind of comes in alignment with the start of school, we think. So we've done some research, we've reflected on our own experiences, and that's what we're going to bring to you today. Thanks for joining us for Being Real Parents with me, Anna, and my colleague and buddy,
Kate. We work in the parenting space.
And it's here where we'll talk about our worlds as parents, the good, the not so good, and the hilarious, and mix this with what we know about behaviour and psychology. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Have you got a smart kid? Hope so.
I don't know yet. In process.
In process. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You brought this up.
Yeah, I did. I think it comes up in our work quite often, in different ways, but it's really come up for me since my daughter has started school, so she's just done her first term at school. And so, yeah, it's kind of shone through.
What are you noticing? That she's been sent home with some stuff?
Yeah, she's been sent home with some stuff. Not much stuff, actually, which I really like that. It's not like, here's all of this homework. It's nice for me. But also she's 5. Like, what are we, I have heard other parents talk about how much homework comes home at 5. I'm like, well, that's a lot. But she's really just coming home with a book, which I think is cool.
Doable.
Yeah. A book's good.
Yeah. Just one, please.
Yeah, just one book. But what I've noticed, it's more around conversations with other parents. They've talked about, like, how's the reading going? And I'm like, what reading? I'm reading.
Yeah. My reading's fine, thanks.
But, like, almost this expectation that now she's started school, she should be reading.
Wow.
I'm like, whoa, like, she's done one term.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I find that quite interesting, that there's just this almost expectation that our kids start school and then they're instantly, like, I don't know, high achievers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're meeting the standards.
Yeah. And that's a lot of pressure to hold.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because what I notice about new parents is they are looking for symptoms and signs that their children are smart.
Yeah.
And often we'll say things like, oh, she's such a smart girl, or,
yeah.
I can't believe that she's already doing this.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing, that tells us that, we feel very attached and connected to our kids.
Yeah.
Hey, I think.
Yeah,
I think, yeah. And it's adorable that we love our children that much, that we, that we project all of this, smartness onto them as well. But then there's the wanting our kids to be smart, isn't there? That's quite different. And I think it does come in line with school. I made a massive mistake with, it was interesting. It was my youngest child, and you would have thought I would have known better. But I think what happened with the onset of school is that I panicked. I actually panicked because that youngest child is often brought up by osmosis anyway, just because he's so stretched and busy. Yeah. And then, she was saying the alphabet in the back of the car. She was just about to turn 5, and she said A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. And I was, pardon? And then the question was, what word starts with L, M, N, O?
Oh.
And it took a wee while to work it out that it was. She thought that was one letter. And then, she's a January baby. So that was it. Like, for Christmas, she got academic toys.
So many.
What was I thinking? And all that happened was that she hated Santa.
Yeah. For good reason.
For good reason.
Yeah.
Did we use those academic toys? No. But it was this I just remember this overwhelming want for her to, it felt like she was behind or...
I can see how she got there too.
Aye.
LMNOP.
LMNO.
Like, it's very quick. And also, once again, we often look at that negative. Hey, like, she actually knew her ABCs. Like, how amazing.
Yeah.
We always focus on the...
And she would have sorted it out in her own mind eventually.
It would have happened.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, she was really
guessing it did.
asking a question that was going to allow that to happen, wasn't she?
It's interesting, eh?
Yeah, but I do remember this projection of me. It's just kind of like, I panicked, but I also was kind of like, oh no, she needs to know this before she goes to school because that's a marker.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is actually.
Nah.
And yeah.
Also, what you were just saying made me think of the fact that we do this from a really young age. Like,
Yeah, bubbas.
yeah, I can already see this happening for Asher. Like, you're a clever boy if you're sitting. Like, okay, he's a clever boy. You've learnt to roll, or those things that we instantly are like, or are they rolling yet? Like, because if he's not, like, what does that mean? Like. He's failing at life,
And I think that's what we need to discuss, hey? We need to talk about that our want for them to be smart and our kind of, like, focus on the smartness as some of that wanting our kids to be perfect.
Yeah.
Which will go hand in hand with us moving into helicopter parenting, maybe even tiger parenting, more scarily. And placing too much pressure on them and actually negatively impacting their mental health.
Yeah, for sure.
And capacity to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't stop.
You're listening to Being Real Parents with Kate and Anna on Plains FM 96.9.
Yes. So we promised to do some research around this, didn't we?
We did. Yeah. It's a bit of a minefield out there, actually, is what I kind of noticed.
Yes, it is a bit of a minefield and some scary stuff in there.
Yeah.
Like, I think what's happened for schools in the system is that the grades determine the perceived success of the school.
Yeah.
But the grades are easy to evaluate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and there's all sorts of other things that are harder to evaluate that are actually, and I'll talk to this, I think, probably more important. But what we do then is we tend to go, oh, that school's getting great grades, I'll send them there. But then when I started to look at some New Zealand research, there's a New Zealand study of Year 13 girls in high decile, high-performing schools that shows that in those schools, those girls are placed so much pressure on them that they feel that it's almost constant pressure and stress and is actually leading to significant social, emotional and mental health consequences.
That's so scary, hey?
Yeah.
And what are the impacts of that on, like, how can you be the successful person if that part of you is not in a good space, hey?
Yeah, and I had to do some extensive advocating for my perceived bright girl to get her away from those STEM, so science, technology, English and maths, which is where they want to see our bright girls, bright kids doing.
Yeah.
Because those are the grades that, I looked at. As the most important, and I had to, and she was having a miserable time, feeling super stressed and pressured.
Yeah.
And so I had to advocate that she could find more, love of learning and change some of her subjects. And it was a bit of a tough
that's huge
road.
That's a lot of pressure.
Hey.
Like, so much pressure.
Yeah. So this thing about us wanting to be our kids to be smart and bright actually is really detrimental in terms of, their overall mental health.
Yeah. And that's our stuff too. Like, we've got this thing, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And whether that's about also how we look around, like with other parents as well.
Maybe.
Because
That's right.
that even makes me kind of think when, you know, I've had these questions like I was saying before around like, how's the reading going? Almost like, should it be better than this?
She'll never be a doctor if she can't read.
Oh, it's all over. Like, she's 5, she can't read. I've let her down. Like, so like almost that pressure among parents as well. Like, why do we feel like we need them to be smart? Like, where does that come from?
I think there is that element of looking good.
Yeah.
Damn it. And then there's also that thing about we want to set our children up so that they, get good jobs.
Yeah.
And aren't relying on us, maybe.
Yeah,
or,
maybe.
Yeah, and are financially stable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that takes pressure off us in the long run.
Yeah, it does. Maybe, I don't know, but it's just about this perceived success story, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
But do we want all of our children to be doctors? No.
No. Yeah, and I guess, like, it does come back to that wanting the best for them, right? Like, it does hopefully come from a good place. That we do want...
If we unpeel the onion.
Yeah, that we do want the best for them underneath it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, what does that do to them in the meantime? Like, what are the impacts of that?
It's good to reflect on, hey? It's good to do a little bit of a kind of reflect and say, is this their goals and dreams, or is this my goals and dreams? And is my kind of like over reading with them on these storybooks, or asking for extra homework for them, or having them doing, heaps of study after school, or, only asking them about the grades and things, is that getting in the way of them actually enjoying learning or learning in the first place,
Yeah, for sure.
And so, we need to have a think about how much pressure we're placing on our kids. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big thing.
Yeah, it is a big thing. Yeah, my first note from some of the research that I had a look at was step back and stop focusing on the subjects, literacy, numeracy, and support our kids to do the things they love and find the ways that support them with schoolwork. So it's kind of like finding their way to be smart, their smart ways, if you like.
Yeah.
Because they already have them. So it might be that, that they are really attuned to creating great videos, and this would be true for one of my kids. So asking, getting them to ask the teacher if instead of creating the project on the cardboard, creating a video instead. Finding their ways to show and extend their smartness.
Yeah. Their niche, hey?
Yeah.
Like, what are they really good at?
Yeah. Or the things that they're just even interested in trying and figuring that out.
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of sits closely with something I was reading about, and that was looking at, so Eliza Pressman, she's a developmental psychologist, and she's got 20 years of kind of studying what makes successful kids, basically.
Yeah.
And she talks about this most overlooked skill that parents should be teaching their children, and so that's around teaching that inner efficacy versus like the self-esteem. So, we're telling our kids, you're amazing, and having those, which we want our kids to think as well. But also underneath that, it might be instead saying, like, I have what it takes to figure this out.
Yeah.
So it might be that I'm actually not at that level of being amazing, but actually I've got some skills that I can work through this.
Yeah, nice. That's that thing about not praising perfection, hey?
Yeah,
but
the process.
Praising the process as well, which, is a really important point.
Yeah.
Because I don't know whether or not I want my kids to go around the world saying and thinking they're amazing.
Yeah. What does that look like?
But I do want them to be reflective, and I do want them to think about others' perspectives, and I do want them to, seek self-betterment as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's that thing, isn't it? That self-efficacy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I found that quite interesting. And I guess thinking about ways we can strengthen that inner voice, because often, as we've spoken about before, what we say to our kids becomes that inner voice. So, like, what are we saying that supports that?
Yeah. Which is what I was saying. We want that for our kids in order that they can, because that's going to support them to, plan ahead and meet goals, and that's the stuff that schools can't really measure, that's not in our, NCEA list of standards.
Yeah. It's missing. For sure.
That they can stay focused. And I mean, I don't think I learnt that really until I came away from school.
No, there's lots of those kind of skills, hey?
Yeah.
Even things like, perseverance and sticking with something. We can do a lot to support our kids in that area too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, even when it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that thing about, taking on challenges and, staying motivated and, yeah. That feels like adulting, doesn't it? That's basically my whole world.
As you said
Sticking
that,
with things,
I thought about
staying motivated.
As you said that, I thought about the whole modelling thing too, and I was like, oh, how do I model that to my child? Like, ugh.
Yeah, how do I model being self-motivated?
Oh, that's too hard.
When basically she sees me with a bag of chips on the couch. No.
You're right. Oh, man.
Talking about how exhausted I am. Oh, no. I'm so doing this all wrong.
She sees me looking after myself, my self-care.
Oh, that's so interesting, isn't it? I also looked up all the other things that I thought were important in terms of creating smart people. And the other one was that again, really hard to evaluate, metacognition, which is that critical awareness of our own thinking and our own learning. So figuring out how we think, but also figuring out how we best learn as well.
Yeah.
Because that's not always kind of catered for, is it?
No.
Yeah. And then, because when you figure that out, you can have a relationship with people that you are learning from and go, oh, and you said all the time, oh, I learn best when.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Sort of that self-advocacy.
Yeah. Which is hard to do.
Oh, yeah, especially, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess figuring that out's hard to do as well.
Yeah.
That takes time.
But that's that figuring out at home too. So if math stuff is hard, working with our kids in different ways rather than just sitting them down at the table and doing times tables over and over and over again.
Yeah. Which is that whole quizzing idea, isn't it? That we sit down and quiz our kids.
We love to do that. What did you learn at school today?
Yeah. I always remember saying to my granddad, nothing. And then he'd be like, well, you don't have to go tomorrow. And then Mum would be like, stop telling her that. But yeah, that's definitely a question, hey, that gets asked. What did you learn at school today? We should have come up with some genius thing that we learnt that day.
Yeah. Learning is a long-term process, isn't it? It doesn't happen in period 2.
I became a genius at period 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, sorry. This has made me really think about, it's just, going back to my own ways of learning and then also, reflecting on my kids and experiences and how, we work in schools as well and see this, see the struggle for teachers in this too.
Yeah. Yeah, and because often, like, the curriculum or how they have to teach might not sit with actually how they would like to do, or, you know, how they feel would be more beneficial for a child.
Yeah, and again, you know, their school is determined on, you know, many times is, you know, assessed by those grades.
Yeah.
And parents, you know, the parents like, you know, that like us going in and saying, excuse me.
Why can't my child read yet?
Yeah. Why didn't she get an A? Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. We put a lot of pressure on them too, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. Oh, there's lots here, isn't there? There's lots here. What else did I notice when I was going through this? I was thinking about, that's right, when I was talking about that stepping back and figuring out what's, you know, how are our children smart. And I've got a 9-year-old that is an incredible advocate for, you know, anything that she sees as unfairness.
Yeah.
And I think, go her.
Yeah, that's an awesome skill to have.
But it's kind of not when you're 9 and working in a school system.
Yeah.
And when you know, when you're trying to work things out at lunchtime with other kids, and so there's kind of like, I have to take responsibility for that too, you know. And it may not fit the school system so well. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a fine line, hey, because you don't want to dull her voice down in that either, because like, that's something that should be celebrated.
Yeah.
And should be like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And can really help her later in life. So it's hard to then want to...
And it's hard to sit back and watch and I go, oh, God, that is her smarts. That is where she is. She's got the smarts.
Yeah.
At the moment, inside of her school pet day, so curriculum time, they hold this dad's cake auction as a fundraiser. Right. And, of course, I'm a solo mum.
Yeah.
So she has some thoughts and feelings about that.
And so she should.
And she wants to put a cake in.
Yeah.
So that's her.
Yeah.
Doing that kind of advocacy for unfairness, but I don't, you know, and the school has a responsibility there.
Yeah.
And I have a responsibility there.
Yeah.
But that's super vulnerable making.
Yeah, fine line, hey?
Yeah.
Because obviously you want to protect her from how that could unravel too.
I wish it wasn't her smarts, to be honest with you. I wish she just liked maths a lot.
But in later life, that's a cool smarts to have.
Yeah, maybe when she's 40 and people start taking her seriously.
I love that for her.
Anything else that we want to say in here?
Yeah, I think for the most of what I looked up, it wasn't like sit down and quiz your child that's going to make them successful. No. It was more around like how can we build them up generally, you know, and a lot of that's around their well-being as well. Hey, it's not actually sitting down and like quizzing them on their letters or sitting down reading a book and just keep going until they figure out what the word is, you know, like...
Yes.
We're there to support them, and they learn from watching us as well. It's not all around that whole quizzing.
Yeah, that's right. I'd also thought too about, you know, making time to have great conversations about things that interest them. Yeah. I also thought that, and that thing about being curious together and commenting on things that they're talking about being interesting or their perspective or, one of the things I've noticed recently is Lula's asking me, why do you think they think like that? And I think, wow. Yeah. You know, that's what I want. Yeah. That's smarts.
That is smarts.
And it makes for a really good conversation, you know. That's the critical thinking stuff. Yeah. And, And I also would really advocate that parents who are worried about any of this stuff work with your kids' teachers on the things that are important to you and your child. If things feel stressful, advocate for them, and work together to support kids to have that pressure taken off.
Yeah, nice. We hope you found today's topic useful and maybe a place that you can reflect on how you are supporting your child's learning and what they are wanting from that. If you're wanting to check out our other podcasts, head along to Plains FM or listen on 96.9. For more information from Real Parents, head to our website, realparents.org.nz, or follow us along on our social pages, Real Parents NZ. And if you're keen to hear a little bit more from us or learn a little bit about teen and screen time, we do have a online webinar coming up on the 24th of October. So feel free to check out our social pages to learn more about that. Awesome. Thanks for being with us today.
We hope you've learned that while parenting is challenging sometimes, that's totally normal. It's been fun having you with us. Keep being amazing.
Bye!